Hey, this is Marko from Semi-Informed Football. So we're actually trying something new today. I wanted to connect with like a super fan. Super fan of a specific team, discuss what's happening with their club. There's a lot of people out there that are really, really passionate about their team, whether they're doing phenomenal or whether they're doing poorly. So this is one of those opportunities. I think I'm going to call this the midweek fan injection because I'm recording this midweek. I think that's going to change the title because this is probably going to get released on the weekend. Anyways. So anyway, on the show today, I have my friend Ross. He's a diehard Romanista. He's part of, what would you say, the Giallorossi Brigade, Ross? Is that correct?
That's right.
100%. So he's a big AS Roma fan, and AS Roma plays in Serie A in Italy. Right now they've had a really bit of a challenging year, and him as a Roma fan, he's had enough. Ross, is that kind of summing up pretty much what you
Yeah.
think right now?
Yeah. I mean, as a fan, it's funny, Marco, like this year, we knew it was not going to be an easy year. Like, I mean, it was going to be a year of adjustments for the team, but never to see it in the current form that it's at. By accounts, and maybe I may not be the best judge of this, but it's the worst season start in about 20 years for the squad. And that's that. One thing you can count on with AS Roma is that consistency, right? It's kind of like they're always in the top 10 table, mid.
Yeah,
They've had a fantastic run in the last
challenging for Champions League, right?
Yeah.
At least in the mix of the top four,
in
right?
in the mix of the top four. I mean, they've been steady Europa contenders. Missed it a couple times in the last couple of years. It's a tough year, definitely a tough year. But what you're seeing now, I think, is just kind of like I don't know if it's leadership discombobulated from the actual what's happening on the field and the whole coaching, um, um, you know,
Debacle.
I guess, yeah, debacle, yeah,
Going on. So this is a current situation right here. So, this is actually a good timing for this podcast because so Claudio Ranieri, retired coach, 73-year-old retired coach, was just named. So the fourth coach of 2024, but the third coach this year, right? So they sacked Mourinho closer to the end of last year. So
probably about February, March, because I actually went to see one of Daniele De Rossi's first games against Fiorentina,
yeah,
and I got to see that in live, and Daniele was at the helm, so I think it was February of this year. Yeah.
yeah, no, and that's it. And you just mentioned it. So Daniele De Rossi, who is kind of a club legend, and a Surrey legend as well. He came in, and you know what? He had a lot of, I guess, success early on. I guess you can counter that to the new manager's success. Like once there's a little bit of a change, all the players kind of squeeze a little bit harder and stuff like that. So he had a little bit of success early on, and what was really really interesting is Roma's under new leadership. So it's from the Friedkin Group, which I believe is an American conglomerate. So the Friedkin Group. Right. And they liked, they're the ones that actually brought in Mourinho 3 years back, just kind of a little bit in the middle of COVID, to really kind of drum up and, kind of bring, you know what, we're serious about this thing. We're bringing in Mourinho. Now that didn't work. And, Mourinho does have like a kind of a 3-year best buy date on his clubs. You notice that with every club he's been, whether it's Chelsea or United.
You and I talked about this when
Yeah.
when Mourinho got appointed, if you remember, right?
If you're gonna do anything, you did. And honestly, you got to give it to Mourinho. He did win. What was that? The Conference League Cup. Is that what it's called? But it was a brand new cup that they started this year. So in his first year, so he did win something right away, which I think gave Roma supporters a lot to go on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Daniel De Rossi comes in, and right off the bat, like again, there was a lot of interest on the team, and a lot of really passionate Roma fans, and they really loved it. So I think they brought him in as a caretaker coach, but they offered him a 3-year contract right away at the end of the year. Yeah. Right. So that really kind of said, hey, you know what? Now we got a little bit of stability here. Our end of the year kind of tailed off a little bit. We didn't make champions. However, all in on Daniele De Rossi. Now, start of this season, not off to a great start at all, right? So Roma dropped, didn't have great performances, and they sacked Daniele De Rossi in September. Now, this is what I'm going to talk to you about because I have a lot of friends who are Serie A fans. I say Juventino, Milanista, and basically what they said is that they had no love for the AS Roma team, but now they really hated it because Daniele De Rossi really kind of represented sort of that, that true AS Roma. And like everybody was rallying behind him, but they were actually rooting against Roma for what they did to Daniele De Rossi. So they fired him in September, thinking that they were going to bring in a great tactician coach in Ivan Juric in September. And things were going to kind of sort of um straighten out for the season. Now, again, really not doing great under Juric, and the last 2 games were like, I think the writing was on the wall. So there was a 5-1 drubbing to, Fiorentina, which what was a little bit kind of like, another kick in the gut too was that Eduardo Bove scored at that game, Fiorentina, being the sort of like a young, r
Oh, right, the homegrown Romanista, yeah.
he scored it. So that was a little bit of a kick in the teeth. So that's it. So that happened. And then just this past weekend before the international break, they lost to a good team in Bologna. I bet they lost
Yeah.
3-2. I didn't know that they were going to do this so fast, but Sunday they canned Juric. And then all of a sudden, like the rumors were kind of swelling, like who's going to step in, who's going to replace him? Was it Frank Lampard? I don't even know if he's been coaching since he was removed from Chelsea. So I'm going to have to fact check that. Um, Another one that we talked about, so me being a Dortmund fan, Edin Terzic, who, he was kind of back and forth, the manager with Dortmund. Dortmund sacked the coach, so he was sort of in a sort of managerial position. He came in and he coached the team. But he coached the team to not a great Bundesliga season. They still made champions, but he actually coached them to the Champions League final against Real Madrid. And honestly, if you watch the first half of that game, I'm like, that was Dortmund's game to lose. However, Real Madrid, how they are, they came in and they kind of swapped and did it. So though neither of them were that, and I had the feeling in my head, I'm like, honestly, the only people that they're going to accept are a homegrown Italian legend, sort of like Daniele De Rossi, right?
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So like the rumors swirling, and they were saying Claudio Ranieri, who's had an amazing time like in Serie A with
Probably one of the most successful coaches out there, like, if you look at his
in,
win percentages, yeah. Yeah.
internally and abroad. So
And abroad, yep.
So he took a team in Cagliari and he actually saved them from relegation. He
Yep.
did a lot of great things, and I don't think anybody remembers or anybody forgets that 2006 Leicester City team, which ended up winning the Premier League. Like honestly, we were talking about this before, Ross, but I'm like, before 2016, I don't think anybody knew how to say the word Leicester. Everybody look at it. Is it Leicester? Is it Worcestershire? Then nobody knew how to say it, but he brought a lot of like, so again, Claudio Ranieri could do no wrong. However, getting older, retired from the sport. So they brought him in as a caretaker manager for the end of the year. And I took a look at I guess the press release about the contract, and he's actually going to slide into some sort of managerial position in Roma after the end of this season. So they have this season to work under Claudio Ranieri, and also this season to look for who is that successor coach, right? There's a few out there. Like I remember, like again, if you just take a look, if we're kind of take a look at that, it's got to be an Italian coach. There's Roberto Zerbi, who left Brighton and he went to France. I don't even know what happened quite there, but is an amazing coach. He was coaching, I think it was Sassuolo just recently in Italy, but Brighton just last season. And I went to France. And then there was also Montella, who is a Roma legend, but now he coaches the Turkey national team, Turkey. And I think they have him locked up until after the World Cup, and they're actually really, really happy with him. So that wasn't a chance. They weren't going to prime away from that. And so
You mentioned Paulo Sousa as well, did you?
no, I didn't. I didn't. No, Paulo
Paulo Sousa was another guy touted, yeah, yeah, and Graham Potter on the from the Prem side of things as well was another guy. There was a lot. I mean, a lot of definitely, coaches in the mix, and I want to highlight one that you mentioned was actually, and recently I've kind of been reading is that
yeah.
Edin Terzic would have probably been the best long-term coach
Yeah.
to set the team up for a long-term success. A lot of pain in the short term
Yeah.
would be felt, but I think Eden would be the natural. What they've done now, Marco, and is I think they've almost when a kid has that favorite blanket of theirs that makes you feel secure. Well, that's what Ranieri is. Let's calm everything down.
Right.
Let's placate the fans with exactly what you said, a hero. I mean,
Yeah.
he is a hero. He
Yeah.
he, this is his third time at Roma. Um,
Right. Right.
Here's an interesting fact that I wanted to bring into this discussion that we're having is actually his win percentages or points per game at Roma are the highest of his career. Like, so in terms of like what I think it's 1.8 points per game that he's got with his stints at Roma, versus like his best I think was at Fulham or Leicester. I can't remember where, but it was 1.2, and even Cagliari was 1.2 or something like that. Like, points per game. So look, it's a safe choice, and if you've been looking and as us as Romanistas do is like scour the internet for information. This is almost equivalent to like uh, there's a lot of things out there where the old grizzled vet is tapped into to go on a mission to take one for the team, right? And this is where Claudio is because you're right. He's 73 years old. Um, he's going to be a caretaker coach, but I think it's been done to just let's let's down the pressure a bit. Let's take it off the field
Yeah.
and give a rally. Give a rally because I essentially Marco, the pieces on the field are the same, and that's the same that they built over the summer, right?
Right. Right.
And you saw you and I were talking over the summer that there was a lot of trades happening and they brought in a lot of talent. It's now how to use those pieces, right?
Of course. Of course. And you know what?
Yeah.
I guess this um change with management or such really didn't help with those. Like you had some good pieces here, you have some good talent, but it just wasn't clicking. So I want to kind of get rid of some bad points first before we actually go into the positive. So I think appointing an Italian coach makes sense for the Freakin Group, which is American conglomerate. For a sporting director, Florent Ghisolfi, I think he's from France. I think he was the coaching either he was with Nice or Lens, with something like that, but doesn't speak a lick of Italian, right? So I just feel like you had to make this so or else they're gonna run this ownership group right out of town, and you could tell like where I never kind of knew Romanista to be such a passionate group, but when I saw them welcome Dybala as if they were welcoming the Pope in Rome, I'm like, oh my god, that goes. This is a fan base. This is a fan base that people can get around, right? No, yeah, and let's get one last thing out of the way. So again, where are they sitting in the table right now?
11th or 12th, I believe,
12th,
was
right?
his last.
Yeah, but I believe it's the 12th place. Now, I think that's a little bit. It sounds a little bit worse. We're only like a third of the way in the season. Like, take a look at the top six. There's only like 2 points from like 2 points from Napoli between Napoli and Juventus. It's only like 2 points different. So there's a lot of chance to make up time, but you understand that even if Roma immediately starts playing better, a lot of these teams too are going to start playing better. But I hope they're looking at Lazio that's in the Champions League spot, and we're like, no, 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 we can't have our crosstown in stadium rivals to take this from us. So that's a big right.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, like I mean, the table is getting tougher, and in the next, you know, yeah, I mean, Napoli is on the 24th. They after the obviously the international break that's happening this weekend, so they hit Napoli. They hit Tottenham. They play Tottenham in the Europa.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
and then right out of that, December 2nd, they're going to face at Atalanta. So a tough climb, and then it kind of calms down a little bit. They play Lecce and then Sampdoria on the 18th.
yeah, right.
So it calms down a little, but like this is this is this is going to be a real true test for Ranieri, I think, and
Yeah,
that win on Napoli, a win against Napoli would definitely set the tone in the right direction.
yeah,
That's a pretty impressive feat. I mean, as you can tell defensively, the team that it was funny because if you look at the team when they started, they weren't getting blown out, Marco. They weren't it was there were tight games, there were ties.
right,
So the defense was doing its job. Spieler is a fantastic goalie, still have it. I mean, yeah, as of late, I'd say his defenses have let him down. Right?
right.
Because he's the goals he's let in are he just you they were tough. Some tough goals. Not they weren't easy ones. But I think that that definitely you were seeing like a tight soccer and it was okay, but it was that 5-1, loss against Fiorentina and would you say
Right, exactly.
yeah, with
So much
Bove putting, the sword
right,
right in. Like
awful.
yeah, those are the kind of things that really start with, getting the fan base like what's going on here. That's a blowout. That is a serious blowout, right? It's not and usually not indicative of a team like Roma, especially with the talent they have on the field. And yeah, so like here we are, right? Like it's going to be an interesting thing for Ranieri. Hopefully he's got his traditional bags of trick, that he can pull into and use the pieces that he's got. I, you identified Friedkin Group, and I'll tell you, like, I mean, by all accounts, they're heavily invested in Rome, like they are,
Yes.
to the point that the former owner James Pelota, who another U.S. billionaire, wasn't to the same extent. Like, I mean, and under him, like you saw De Rossi leave, you saw Totti leave. There was a lot of things that angered the fan base, right? Since Friedkin's been in, like, I mean, they've look what they've done. Like you said, they got Mourinho. They spent money on Mourinho. They spent money on Dybala. Lukaku. Like you look at all the money they've invested. Now it's going to get interesting though. Like, I mean, you've probably heard that Friedkin Group is also looking at completing a purchase of Everton in the Prem League.
Right.
Uh, so that's going to be interesting, right? As you start getting, I mean, definitely, uh, Rome is, Serie A soccer is for the fans, or is, are, uh, you know, definitely a core and a supporter, and they're definitely something you watch. But let's not kid ourselves. Like the Prem is the Prem, the money
Yes, yeah.
that's in there. Where are they going to focus their attention now? Right? Do they want to make Everton like? Do they want to make a run with
Exactly.
Everton? Because on the global stage, that's where you could hit it out of
I
the
want
park.
yeah, 100%. Well, that's not the point of this podcast, but, again, there are different conglomerates. So there's the City Group that owns, like, Manchester City, and I think it's, uh, I don't know if it's Girona or I know one of the sporting French, ones in Spain, but there's also Red Bull, right? So, yeah, you're right. Like, what is the jewel of their,
So
of their
that's what I'm
right.
trying to say. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what is the jewel, and what does that mean to Roma going forward, right? Like in terms of talent. That
Well, yeah, I remember them when they came on, like they kind of boasted, it's like, we have the best city in the world, we have the best fans in the world. We want to bring this club to be great again, right? So, it is a little bit challenging. So again, upside. Um, Looking at their lineup, like I saw, they were beat by Bologna 3-2. However, El Shaarawy, put in two of those goals. Right?
there's a
What's the
yeah.
upside here? Like, where do you see things where it's like, hey, you know what? There's something to salvage this season, like
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the talent that they brought in, Marco, it's ability to get a coach that can actually use the talent and have the respect in the dressing room, which is, I think, what Jurk was up against, right? Because De Rossi was not disliked in the dressing room. He was, he was able to rally the team around him, given who he is, of course. Uh, Jurk's a great coach. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, you're
Well,
a consistent coach, maybe not a great coach, but a consistent coach, right? Like, I mean, he's done a great job at teams like Torino and I think Verona in the past, right? Like he's kept them, competitive, maybe not highly competitive, but competitive to stay in and not get relegated and whatnot. Torino always middle of the table, but I think I think it just he couldn't get the locker room, win him because it almost like they saw him as they took their buddy away, right? Their De Rossi away, and maybe that's kind of what the feeling was in the room. Now, Ranieri's a different story. He's going to reignite, definitely some passions. Um, there's the core players like Pellegrini and Cristante, who have got to step up, and maybe this is something that'll help them do that. Having having a fellow Roman citizen back in the mix. Um, the big question to me is Dybala, right? Is kind of, um, you know, it it's funny because I heard a comment like, like he's showing in Rome now why Juventus was happy to let him go.
Right.
He doesn't show up to Triguria for practicing with the team. He doesn't show up to the games ready to play in most regards. The only exception was the Bologna game where he actually made an issue of why he was benched or sat out. I don't know if you saw that. There was
Yeah. Well, yeah.
a lot of reports about that because he did have an injury, but apparently he was feeling okay. And anyway, I mean, we can speculate all you want, but um, that's a lot of money tied up in that guy. A lot of money tied up in that talent. And if he's not gelling with the team at practices, Triguria is kind of like, where you go and kind of like, you practice and you build the system there. I don't know. I don't know about that, but the upsides are definitely in the short term. Like, I mean, Ranieri could put these guys, back on the rail.
Yeah.
I think.
No, and I think you have that. Like, honestly, I think this was a low risk move, to tell you the truth. Like, you have somebody that's gonna be
Absolutely.
I think that's gonna be accepted by fans. It kind of ingratiates the ownership group to them. And honestly, like, even if they stay where they are, say at 12th spot, I don't think you're gonna get much more hatred. But I honestly think, like, I think the way Serie A has been planning out this season is that I can see big movements. Like Napoli's on top, but I really don't think they've taken it by the like by the shirt right away, right? Like, I feel like, they've kind of challenged Juventus. Juventus, like, they're unbeaten. However, I think they're 6-6, right? So, like, nobody's really kind of taken it. So I do think that there is a opportunity for Roma to move up a few spots, hopefully get a spot in Europe, because I think that's a goal with everyone. Plus, it adds a little bit more money. So I do think that there's a lot of opportunity. I don't know. Like, again, let's close off this podcast, and I'm gonna actually ask you to make a prediction. Where do you think they're gonna land in come May at the end of the season? What do you think's gonna happen?
At the end of the season, I'll probably see them in definitely a top five in the Serie A, maybe top six. I see them probably getting their maybe their conference spot and or Europa spot. That's what I'm hoping would be a successful season to turn this around right now as the team is right now. Before I had hoped to see them in top three or four. Never at the top. Like I mean, I'm not kidding myself. Like, I mean,
Right, of
talent.
course, of course. Yeah.
Because even Napoli now, you hit it on the hit. They had a pretty easy opening season. Like, if you look at
Yes, of course.
their schedule, now they hit Atalanta last week. They got some challenge, right? I think the challenges are coming up for Napoli too. So we'll see. So my guess is for Roma. I'd love to see him top five, 5 or 6 spot by end of May. That would salvage the season and say, let's move from here and let's move on. But we're still in Europe. We're still in European
Yeah.
European conferences and competitions. Happy to see that.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like as a soccer fan, oh, I want to see him at number one, but like, I'm not being realistic, right? Like,
No,
or
of
else,
course. And that's why they take a mix of the top six and they send them to Europe. And on top of it, what's it called? That Ranieri can retire as a hero.
well, and that's the thing, right? If for some reason they're able to shoot the stars and maybe even finish top three,
Yeah.
I mean, Ranieri, like, that is how is that to crown his
Yeah.
last success, right? Like, yeah, like, I mean, that would be something that would be unbelievable, right? Given the opening of the season, but like you said, a lot of soccer to be played. So definitely a lot more to see.
Amazing. All right, Russ. Thank you so much for this.
Oh, thank you. This was a blast. And
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
100%. And I always love reaching out and talking to the people that are most passionate about their club.
Or we have a check-in. We'll have a check-in in April.
Amazing. Part two. Russ, have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.